My name is Kadler Draven, and welcome to Let's Learn Stellaris. Stellaris is a grand strategy game developed by Paradox Interactive, and thus it is a very long, very arduous, very complicated game to play. What this Let's Learn series is going to do is hopefully get you started a little bit quicker so you don't have to restart as much when you make a really dumb mistake like I do every single time I play a Paradox game. So what we're going to do is we're going to click New Game, and then we're going to create a new empire. You can use one of these preset empires if you wanted to, but what fun is that? Let's create a new one. So this is the empire screen where you get to create your little empire. We're going to start with the appearance, so let's just click on appearance up here at the top, and as you can see, you have lots of options for appearance. Go ahead and just pick one, whichever one makes you feel happy. So let's pick a mammalian race. We'll be little fox people. So let's click next. This is where you select the name of your empire. So what do you want to be? You can put in your own, or you can just kind of randomize. We'll be the Krolls. We're the Kroll Fox Empire. So then you click next. That brings you down to the names list. This is where you get to select what kind of names you see throughout the game. Your fleet names, your ship names, your leader names, your planet names, whichever kind of name you can really think of. They have a preset little grouping of names to make it easier for you to read and understand exactly what you're looking at. Well, since we're a mammalian race, we could probably just go with the mammalian set. And then the ship prefix is what you're going to see before every one of your ships. So if you're from England, you'll see something like HMS. So you would see like the HMS Jaltesk on your ships. You can kind of make this whatever you want. Let's do the People's Republic of Foxes. So we'll be the PRF. The People Republic of Foxes, Jaltesk or Jaljakan. And then you see you got different leader names. You can either pick one that matches the race that you're playing if you want a more authentic playthrough, or you could just pick one at random. It really doesn't affect anything in the game other than what you're reading the entire time. So maybe it is more important than I think. All right, so we're going to click next, and that brings us down to the trait menu. The trait menu is where you really get into the meat and potatoes of your, little empire. Traits affect how your empire produces goods and how they produce research and how they can habitate worlds. So let's go through this real quick. You get to pick up to 4 traits, and you get a total of 2 trait points to pick. If you look on the right hand side of each trait, red takes away from your trait points, like Agrarian will take away 2, so I'm out of trait points. And if we scroll down, just pick one random, non-adaptive, will actually give you plus a trait. So I now have 3 trait points, but I can only pick 3 instead of 4. So let's kind of run through these real quick, see what each one does, and that might give you a little better understanding of how you want to play your empire. Agrarian is a plus 15% food. Food is what your population eats. So you want to make sure you have plenty of food. If you want to do a game where you're expanding a lot through colonization, food might be a decent trait to pick. Thrifty is energy credits. Energy credits plus 15%. So energy credits are what basically keep your ships running. Everything that has a stagnant, persistent presence in the universe will cost energy credits to keep it running. So if you're going to want to expand with lots of ships and a lot of military platforms, anything that's going to be a constant state throughout the galaxy, you're going to burn through a lot of energy. So you might want to take something like plus 15% energy credits. Industrious is 15% minerals. Minerals are what you use to actually build things. Obviously, things got to be built out of stuff, and that stuff in this game is minerals. So if you want to be building lots of stuff, you can get plus 15% minerals. Intelligent, obviously, you get an Einstein type boost to everything you do. Engineering, physics, and society output, which are the 3 research types throughout the game. We'll go into this into a little bit more detail in a later Let's Learn, but if you know you're going to want to end up playing a very scientifically industrious type empire, then you're going to want to pick something like intelligent, where you're going to pump out more research throughout the game. Now, if you want to just kind of focus on one, you're like, hey, Kat, I just want to focus on physics, man. I don't care about engineering or society. The game helps you out. You can pick one of these 3: natural engineer, natural physicist, or natural sociologist. And what that does is that gives you a direct boost to just one output method of research. So engineers obviously produce more engineering, physicists produce more physics, and sociologists produce more society type research. So instead of getting a 10% blanket across the board, you can spend one less, get 15% towards just one type of research. Extremely adaptive. Habitability will go into in a little bit, or maybe into a different video. I think we'll talk about it a little bit on one of the screens later on in this one. So what this does is basically just make it so you can habitate a more wide variety of planets. So it gives you plus 20% and plus 10% respectively towards making planets habitable. Non-adaptive obviously would do the opposite of adaptive, where you're going to get negative. So if you don't really want to worry about colonizing different types of planets other than your main type of planet, you can take something like non-adaptive and get yourself an extra point to spend somewhere else. Rapid breeders, that gives you a negative 10% growth time. People just don't pop out of thin air. They take a while to grow, and you might not want to wait as long to have your planet filled with people. So you can take a negative 10% growth time if you're going to want to do something like expand on a planet level instead of more of a space level type gameplay. Slow breeders, obviously the opposite. You take forever to pop out little kids. So plus 15% growth time. If you know you're not going to really want to settle that many planets, if you're going to want to kind of just mine in space and not worry about building, mining facilities on planets, you could take something like a slow breeder trait, give you an extra trait point to play with. Talented, this game has leaders. Your scientists, your admirals, your generals, your governors are all considered leaders, and each leader has given skill levels. So if you know you kind of just want to focus on having a really good set of leaders and let them kind of take care of things and use their bonuses throughout the game, you take something like Talented. Quick learners, that gives leaders more experience. So Talented gives you a +1 overall the board. So as soon as you get a new leader, he is automatically a leader skill level of 2 instead of a leader skill level of 1. Quick learner is a long-term play on how you want your leaders to pan out. So it gives a plus 25% to experience gain. So leaders will gain experience just over time, and when you have random events, they could have a positive impact on how much experience they get. They'll get 25% more. Slow learners, your leaders are really stupid, and so they get a negative 25% experience. They really have no idea what is going on around them. If you don't care what your leaders are like, feel free to take that one, get yourself an extra trait point. Very strong, your army damage is up 40% and your minerals are up 10%. What this will do is basically make your army hit like a freight train whenever they go to invade a planet. So if you want a more ground-oriented playthrough where you're not as worried about your spaceships, but you're going to take over planets with armies, very strong might be a trait for you. Strong is obviously just a little version of that. So if you don't want to try to build your 4 points, you just want to take a 1-pointer that'll increase your army damage, feel free to take strong. Weak, obviously the opposite of strong, negative 20% to your army damage. Nomadic, we're going to get into migration time and resettlement costs later. It's a little bit more of an advanced level. You'll probably do something like that on your second playthrough of the game. So we'll just kind of skip over nomadic and resettlement costs for right now. Sedentary is obviously the opposite of nomadic. So that'll just give you positives and pluses, plus percentage costs to migration and resettlement. Communal happiness, just overall happiness. It really doesn't have too much of an impact, but if you want to make sure your people are happy and you don't want to worry about any types of revolts or rebellions, please feel free to take communal. Solitary is just the opposite. It's your people are solitary and territorial. They don't like other species really. They don't like being in large groups. So if you really want to keep your people alone and not really worry about interacting with others, solitary might be a trait for you. Charismatic, other species happiness, how they view you overall. So much like the other trait where much like the leader trait where you can take a flat rate or you can take a percentage, you could take communal, which is a percentage, and charismatic, which are percentages. So this is how other species view you. So if you want to make sure that you're any species you come across throughout the galaxy, any other empires you obviously want them to like you so they don't bomb you into non-existence, you're going to take something like other species happiness. Repugnant, if you don't really care if other species like you, repugnant will be a trait for you to take, and that'll give you an extra trait point to play with. Conformance, ethics divergence, we're going to get into ethics divergence a little bit later. Venerable, leader lifespan plus 120 years. Your leaders will last forever. Leaders will come and leaders will go. Everything in this universe has a life cycle, so leaders will die. If you want to get very invested in your leaders and have them for long periods of time, because the more skill they get, the better they are, you'd want to take something like Venerable. Enduring is just a smaller version of that, where you're gonna only spend 1 point and get 30 years instead of spending 4 and getting 120. Decadent, resource output without slaves. That's right, you can take slaves in this game. Decadent will give you a negative hit to anything that's produced not by slaves. So if you know you're not really going to play with slaves, you can take something like Decadent, get yourself an extra trait point, and then you'll never have to really worry about resources not produced by slaves. All right, so Resilient is garrison health and fortification. What that'll do is make it much harder for your planets to get invaded by incoming ground forces. So if you want to make sure that your planets are going to stay your planets, you could take something like Resilient. So for this playthrough, what we're going to end up taking is we're going to do something like, let's do Thrifty, just to make it nice and simple. I don't want to be running out of energy credits while I'm talking to you. So we're going to take a plus 15% boost to our energy credits. We are going to have all the energy in the galaxy. So let's go ahead and hit next. This is where you just kind of specify what your ruler looks like, male or female. You can change the color variants, and then you can change your clothes. And there's 5 options for clothes. There's 6, color variants. Feel free to pick whichever one you like. We'll just do 3 for both. Why not? And then you can random a name or put your own name in. Our leader is going to be named Fon Tauros. Let's click next. Name and class of your homeworld. This is where you can put in your star name and your homeworld name. We can just kind of randomize this because it really doesn't matter much to me right now. We'll do Agaria. We'll do Agaria, and we're in the star system Igra. So, and then you can change your starting solar system. You can start on Sol, you can start on Deneb, or you can do a random. Random's more fun. It makes the game a little bit more hectic at the beginning, but it's more fun. This is where you select the type of world that you like to inhabit. So you have continental, which is much like Earth, an ocean world, Arctic, tundra, arid, desert, and tropical. And what this does is obviously you're gonna have a preference on what type of world you like to, be on, what type of world you like to habitate. So say we take ocean world here. As you can see, you get a plus 80% habitability in ocean type planets. Continental, which has a lot of water, is obviously going to give you plus 60%. Arctic, which is just nothing more than frozen waters, plus 60%. Tropical and tundra, plus 20%. So basically, you can just kind of pick whichever type of planet you like to settle on. Normally, I play continental, but there's not that many continental worlds that I've seen to actually settle on. There might just be, I haven't even fully explored one galaxy yet. So there might be an even amount throughout. But I mean, we are foxes, so we should probably do something like continental, right? It seems to fit the type of playthrough we're going to be going with here. So let's click next. This is your city appearance. It has absolutely no effect on the game other than what your city looks like, so feel free to pick whichever one looks coolest to you. We'll just stick with mammalian because we are a mammal. Government and ethics. What we have here is your ethic wheel and what type of government you like to run. Different combinations will affect what type of government you can actually have. So let's run through these real quick. You got xenophobes, which don't like aliens. You have individualists, which will give you more energy and really don't much care for slavery. You got materialist, which if you're building like a technologically advanced society, that's the direction you want to go. You could take something like materialist. You have pacifists, which give you plus food and embassies, but you take a hit on damage and rivalries. So what that does is basically you'll have plenty of people, plenty of embassies to send to other alien empires. So if you're playing more of a passive role, you want to make more alliances, that's the type of direction you can go. You have xenophile, which takes negative 10% against xenophobia, which is the exact opposite of xenophobe. So basically you're out there, you want to explore and you want to find other aliens. So then you have collectivist, which slavery tolerance and food consumption. If you don't care if you enslave people, if you want to have a ruling world of slaves, you would take something like collectivist. And then you have spiritualist, which gives you plus 5% happiness. So everybody's just good and happy. So So you have 2 rings here, as you can see. You have the green ring and you have the orange ring. Orange costs you 2 ethic points. Green costs you 1 ethic point. So feel free to pick any combination to get you up to 3. Well, like I said before, any combination is going to affect what type of government you can have. So what we want to do is, I think we want to be fanatic materialists, and we also want to be individualists. So we don't want slavery. We want to help technology build societies. All right, so as you can see, as I click off and on these, it'll take away and add different combinations of government styles. There's a bunch of different types, 3, 6, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15 different types of governments. I can count. We're all happy about that. So since I'm going to play an individualist and a materialist, I have 4 options for the type of government I want to run, and each one has their own positive and negative traits. By negative, it's more of a you don't get certain traits that you can get with other types of governments. So for our little playthrough, we have direct democracy, science dictatorate, indirect democracy, and a plutocratic oligarchy. So if we run through these real quick, you get +2 to core sector planets, which we'll be explaining in a later video, but you have an election every 5 years. So the ruler you're creating might end up getting voted out if you're not, kind of expanding the way you promise everybody you're going to be expanding. You have a science directorate, which they hold a new election every 40 to 50 years for a new ruler. You have research alternatives, which gives you 1 more option while you're researching, and empire leader capacity lets you have 1 more leader. You have an indirect democracy, which gives all of your leaders +1, and the recruitment cost is -10%. It costs influence to recruit new leaders. We'll be going into that in the next Let's Learn. And then you have a plutocratic oligarchy, which gives you energy credits and minerals, and you get to hold office for 40 to 50 years. So I think we're going to go with plutocratic oligarchy. That way we're getting extra minerals, extra credits, and we'll just kind of move on. The rest of them, if you just hover over them, if you take what we learned in the traits tab, you'll kind of understand what each one of these really means and how it could be different for how you want to do your playthrough. If you really want to say you really want to play a military dictatorship, you can just hover over it and you can see the red X's under military dictatorship. And the X means you can't pick it for this reason. And you must have one of the following be true for you to be able to play as a military dictator. You either have to have militarist or fanatic militarist, and you cannot have individualist. So say we want to just take away individualist real quick. We'll take militarist. We can now play as a military dictator, but we don't want to do that. We want to play as individuals. We want to have an oligarchy where the rich and powerful rule everything. Then we click next. This is where you select your empire name. You can, apparently randomize is not working for some reason. So let's just type in a name. I do believe we're the Krolls. So we'll just go with, let's just type it in. So we'll have Kroll and we'll just leave, I don't know what, Krolls? Yeah, we'll just go with Krolls. All right, sorry about this. I was not expecting the randomize button to not work right. Then we'll hit next. This is where you select your flag. This is totally just kind of preference. It has no real effect on the game other than when you zoom out to see the galaxy as a whole, or the universe as a whole. You will see this flag basically sitting over all the area you control. You have pirate shapes, ornate shapes, human shapes that you're very common with. We're foxes, so let's go zoological, and we'll do the claw. And then let's go with green and black. Green and black. So that's going to be our symbol throughout this playthrough or this Let's Learn session. Let's click next. This is the type of weapons you get to start with. You have projectile weapons if you think bullets. Energy weapons are lasers. Missile weapons are obviously missiles. Each one has their own little differences to it. I haven't found that big of a difference between the starting ones because you're going to be changing them out as you play through. Anyway, I normally do energy weapons. So since I'm most familiar with that, let's go energy weapons. This is where you choose your faster than light travel methods. You have warp travel, hyperspace travel, and wormhole travel. Hyperspace travel is just limited to existing paths along hyperlane networks. So think about it like a highway. They already exist. You can travel on those. You have wormhole travel, where you have to build wormholes to go in between different star systems. And then you have warp travel, which kind of lets you just go wherever you want to go, but kind of slow. So we're going to go with warp travel since it's easiest to understand and the easiest to explain, and it's for new players for a reason. So let's continue on. And then this is ship appearance. This is just another, cosmetic thing. It really doesn't affect the way the game plays. So just kind of pick one that you enjoy. Let's go with the fungoid ships because they look kind of fun. We'll click next. And this is just an overview of what your new empire is going to look like. We're a fox race that are named the Kroll. We're on the planet Agrarian, which is a continental world that we like to inhabit. We have red lasers, warp travel, fungoid ships because they look cool. We're individualist and fanatically materialist. And we're thrifty. We don't like to spend our energy credits. Once you're done, you can go back through and change anything that you want. So say you decided, you know what, I really don't want thrifty, I want industrious. Feel free to just go over here. You can click on any of these in any order that you want to fill them in. So we're going to stick with thrifty though. And then we're going to hit save. Kroll has been saved successfully. You click done. And this is where you edit the game details. Since you're starting a new game, you get to edit the game details. As you can see, you can go from tiny, which is only 150 stars, up to huge, which is 1,000 stars. What we're going to do is we're going to go with a medium map, and then you get to pick what type of galaxy shape you want. You can have spiral of 1 arm, 2 arms, a ring, or an elliptical. Let's do a spiral of 2 arms because it might be a little bit more fun that way. And then this is where you get to select how many empires you want to play with. You have empires that'll populate the galaxy, and advanced AI starts. As you would imagine that there's other alien races out there that have been around much longer than you, and they'll have just kind of an advanced start. Makes the game a little bit more challenging. You could turn that to 0 if you want, or you can make all 17 advanced and you're kind of lagging behind. Let's start with like say 5 advanced, and let's bring this down to say like 15 empires. Difficulty, you got 3 choices: normal, hard, insane. We'll stick with normal for now because we're just kind of learning how to play the game. Allowed FTL method, which means you can just kind of enable your FTL travels, which is fine. We will allow anybody to travel however they want. Then you have Iron Man mode, which is just doesn't let you, it has a single file, so you can only go back and it's automatically saved regularly. So basically you can't save cheat throughout the game. So if like you screw up, you can't go back to a previous save. Then we're going to hit play. The new game's going to start up and it'll show us where we're leaving or where we're going to begin. And that's going to take us to the end of Let's Learn number 1. We learned how to build an empire. And in the next one, we are going to figure out exactly what this overly complicated graphic user interface is, what all these different tabs are, and how to kind of get started making our initial star system a good place to live. That's going to do it for me. My name is Kadler. Please hit the subscribe button, like this video if you're enjoying what I'm doing, and I will see